Let's say, hypothetically, that I made some bad financial bets. Maybe I was irresponsible with a credit card. Maybe I got involved in a certain shaped scheme. I've got a lot of debt, and I gotta get out of it. Well, companies go bankrupt all the time. Can I do that? So I've got no way to pay off this debt. Creditors are hounding me, and the stress is just building and building. I've got to go find a lawyer, specifically a bankruptcy lawyer.
My name is Steven Starr. I'm an attorney here in New York. I practice bankruptcy and restructuring with a law firm, Starr & Starr PLC.
When should a person consider personal bankruptcy?
So that's a good question. I mean, as a bankruptcy attorney, we're not trying to push or sell bankruptcy. We're always looking at what's the best solution for an individual. The first question is, what are your debts? Which is a total of how much money do you owe in terms of things like credit cards or back rent or student loans. And then what's your income? What's the money that's coming in? And we compare those. And if you have, more money coming in than you owe and it's not too burdensome, it's somewhere below, let's say 50%, which, a lot of people in New York pay really high rent. Maybe people can get out of it through budgeting, right? I'm a big fan of budgeting, but if you're in a really deep hole, budgeting is not going to help.
Sure.
A lot of my clients, it's literally their debt is a multiple of their income. So they owe $100,000, they earn $50,000, and that's, gross numbers before taxes. The other thing is people are about to start the next chapter of their life, and what do I mean by that? Someone was an entrepreneur, they had a business, it didn't work out, and now they're gonna do something else. Well, should they keep paying back all the debt that they incurred in the failed business, or should they work on the next chapter of life?
So if a person is considering it, what should their first step be? Is that to reach out to an attorney?
I don't view bankruptcy as a first resort. I do view it as a last resort. So I think the first step, and you might be surprised to hear this, people need to get control of just understanding the numbers. Sometimes, clients come in and they'll have all these envelopes in a bag and they're not opening their mail because they're dealing from fear. Literally making piles and figuring out, how much do you owe and adding that up and looking at your expenses.
So could you explain to me the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13?
Chapter 13 is really useful for people who need the chance to catch up with payments over time. We would usually use that if someone if they own a home and they're facing a foreclosure or they've fallen behind on their payments. It's going to be a really helpful tool, I think, for people bouncing back after all these COVID troubles. And if people lost their jobs but then found a new job, they can then catch up over as much as 5 years through a Chapter 13 plan. It's like a repayment plan. It's a court-enforced repayment plan.
In a Chapter 7, what assets do you get to keep and what gets taken away?
7 is liquidation, and the idea there is you're filing a bankruptcy case. Most people's debt, again, going back to sort of like broad examples, 98, 99% of my clients' debts, do get wiped out with the exception of like student loans and certain tax debts. Most individuals, most of my clients, when they file Chapter 7, they get to keep all their property. But the way Chapter 7 works, there's a person called the bankruptcy trustee. So an example I often use is if someone had a collection of luxury cars, Porsche, Lamborghini, Maserati, Ferrari, very high-end luxury automobiles, the law is not going to let you keep automobiles with that level of value. It's going to give you some money back. But the trustee would hire an auctioneer, have an auction, get bankruptcy court permission, do that, take that money, pay the creditors.
For both Chapter 7 or 13, maybe the answer is different. What is the long-term impact on your financial health?
There's something called the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which governs credit reporting. And that says that the credit grantors can look to bankruptcy up to 10 years. But the sort of received wisdom is if you file, a 7, you're going to rebuild your credit in a much faster time than that. And at the end of the process, most of my clients are able to rebuild their credit within a few years. There is life after bankruptcy, right? Like, they don't want to leave people, penniless and homeless as a result of bankruptcies.
It's starting to sound like personal bankruptcy might be for me, but it would really help if I could talk to somebody who's been through this process personally.
I've been through bankruptcy, and I can tell you all about it, Henry.
Oh, wow, really? Who are you?
My name is Donald Ash, and yes, I'm a teacher that had to file bankruptcy probably about a decade ago.
Tell me your story. Why did you have to file in the first place?
I got into into a bit of a business scam that ended up stacking up so much debt on me that I couldn't pay it off. So because I was a teacher not making much money, I kind of got into a business deal that I didn't research very well. Friend recommended it, and once everything was said and done, I think I had racked up almost $100,000 in debt.
How did you decide to file? How did you find out, like, this is the best option for me?
I actually just kind of started calling around to see what lawyers could help me. And after getting turned away from a couple, one recommended me to a lawyer, and we got to sit down and kind of go through just everything that was going on with my finances to figure out what I could discharge and what I couldn't. Beyond just the thing that happened with the business scam, it also gets rid of, so that's auto loans. I think I had a credit card for like $1,000, a Discover card, and I might have had like a little bit of like medical money to pay back, but wasn't a lot. But that also got discharged. So at first I was just thinking maybe I just should kind of just put the business stuff on there and worry about that. But in the end, I put on everything that I could put on there, and I just said, it's fine. If we're going to do this, just get rid of just everything that's not student loans. So I just have one thing to focus on.
How was this process for you, I guess, mentally and emotionally while it was going on? And, even now, I suppose.
I have to say it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's like repossession people go into your mom's house at like the wee hours of the morning, and she doesn't know what's going on, and I'm like, that's not what this was supposed to be. So it was a big mess. It was a really big financial mess. One thing I can say is if you do file, know that if you can turn things around. It's not impossible, but you have to kind of keep in mind that things have to change for you financially. You have to make some changes to make sure that change can happen. It is an option, and I'm proof that you can file bankruptcy and get through it and come out on the other side, because my credit, like, it's in the high 700s right now, so it's back to a workable.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
At its lowest point, it was in the low 500s. Like, it was even high 400s. It was a dark time, but you can get through it if you set a plan for yourself.
With the economic calamity caused by the pandemic, you'd expect bankruptcies to be through the roof, but that's actually not the case. I'm going to talk to Jack Pitcher about it. He is right over there in the Bloomberg building.
Yeah, my name is Jack Pitcher. I am a reporter on the personal finance and wealth teams.
You're not seeing a lot of bankruptcy declarations across the country right now.
We've actually seen a decrease in personal bankruptcies.
What are the reasons for that, do you think?
So it's pretty much coming down to all of the measures that have been acted to help people. The stimulus payments, the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures, auto lenders and credit card lenders have been more lenient with people who are late on payments than they typically are. So that's preventing a lot of the events that typically actually push people into bankruptcy. Usually when an individual is filing for bankruptcy, it's because all of a sudden their car is being repossessed and they can't drive to work, or their home is being foreclosed on. Those events that typically actually push someone to go talk to a lawyer and ask if they need to file, there's been less of that since the pandemic began.
There are weirdly resilient careers that thrive during times like this, like repo men and bankruptcy protection lawyers. So, like,
those people aren't yet seeing like a boom in business.
Correct. I talked to a number of bankruptcy lawyers reporting on this story, and a lot of them told me they're having one of their quieter years ever. Most of them are expecting a big pickup, but for the most part, that hasn't started yet.
Yeah, is there a sense on when that might happen?
I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different things. Everyone seems to agree that a wave is coming with the level of unemployment we saw in March and April. Not very many people have a great idea of when. It will likely have to do when some of these protections stop, and next year when we see the foreclosure moratorium end and some of these other things. There are a couple of things that have already ended that maybe could lead to a pickup in the fourth quarter of this year, like the enhanced unemployment benefits. It's been a long time since there was a stimulus payment, so there likely are going to be more people who are cash stressed the rest of the year than there have been so far.
Maybe we're looking at a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. If you're considering personal bankruptcy, you're not alone.